Hello, hello, and welcome to the Hypno Godmother Show. I am so glad that you found me today. I am Shirley, clinical hypnotherapist with a private practice here in Southern California, mental health first responder, and complete advocate, like I said, here at Whispering Zen Hypnotherapy and Wellness. Thank you again for finding my show. I love it when people find me and they learn new things about mental health, learn maybe a couple new things about themselves. And this is a place where you can definitely come as you are and leave as you want to be. Do you wish you could more freely enjoy a new healthy habit or just get back to being a better you? And, although I specialize in working with the LGBTQIA community, I welcome and I work with everyone. So I am here for you wherever you are. So if you'd like a consultation, you just need somebody to talk to, vent, blow some stuff off, get a little coaching, whatever it is that you need, I am here for you. And you can find me at Whispering Zen, Whispering Zen Hypnotherapy.com, whisperingzen.net. You can find me on pretty much every social platform as the Hypno Fairy Godmother because that is where I'm at and that's what I'm doing. So I'm so glad again once that you found me today. And this is what we do. We get together, we mingle, we learn a little, we talk a little. I use my hands a lot. You know how this goes. Before we get started today, we need to get into that safe place. And for those of you that are new, a safe place is some place where you're not driving, you're not using heavy machinery, you're not in the middle of a project, you're not dealing with something at work. Because, you can always re listen later. You can always rewatch later because I repost this. So if you are in the middle of something, don't get in trouble. I love the fact that you're here. I love the fact that you want to help support me. But, you know, sometimes you have to adult and sometimes you have to grown up and it kind of sucks. But, that's what we have to do sometimes. So if you are in that wonderful place and you do want to play along today, let's get going. So we're going to start out by taking a nice deep breath. Hold it. And we're going to exhale with a smile because we want to exhale with a smile because you're giving out positive vibes and positive joy to the universe. And that's the way we do this. Now, we're going to start by we're going to wiggle our toes. We're going to wiggle our toes inside your shoes, outside your shoes. I don't really care. Today I'm outside my shoes, which is very normal for me. I'm kind of a barefooting kind of girl. So, do that, wiggle those, get those going. Now I want you to wiggle your butt. Yes, I said it. Wiggle your butt. Wiggle your buns, squeeze them in, rotate them around, do a little jiggy, do whatever you need to do. Because it's really hard to sit here and wiggle your butt without smiling. Or I love walking up to people and go, you need your butt, wiggle your butt, squeeze in your buns, come on. And it always makes them smile and it makes me smile and it makes them kind of look at me like, what? But I love that reaction. So now that we have wiggled our toes and wiggled our butt, what we're going to do is we're going to take another deep breath. We're going to hold it in. And this time, as we exhale slowly, we're going to say an affirmation. Something like, we got this, and it's going to be okay. And throwing out something positive and enriching to the world and yelling out to the universe, I got this. We can do this because sometimes you just want to make it through the day and you're doing everything you can to make it through that tough day. Sometimes you're trying to make it through the week. For some of us, we're just trying to make it to the next hour. And if I can throw out, I got this for the next hour and I can do it, that's the most amazing thing possible. To be that positive influence, to throw out that there's so much negativity in the world right now, and there's so much negativity happening in the world that any little bit of happiness and joy, exuberation, whatever word you want to use, This is what we do. So, and if you've got a couple extra minutes, roll your ankles a little bit. And I mean rolling around, not roll your ankles. And kind of move your legs and move your core, maybe move your shoulders. Come on. Get those shoulders moving and your neck. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was a good one. So now, in this short amount of time, you have now loosened up everything from your toes to your nose, straight up. We are ready to get this show moving, because that's what we do. And if you would like to become a sponsor of the show and you would like to help us out a little bit, maybe buy me a cup of coffee, which, I can always use. You can either contact me at whisperingsinhypnosis.com, or you can join my Patreon page and just look for Hypno Fairy Godmother Radio, because where else would you find me but Hypno Fairy Godmother Radio? Because that's my thing, and that's your thing, and that's why you're all here. So we know that I'm a hypnotherapist. And that kind of throws people off a little bit. What is the hypnotherapist? What part's coach side? What part's advocate side? But I get asked questions from all over, and I love talking about mental health. I love talking about positive mental health. Sometimes you do have to talk about negative mental health. Not always a great subject, but sometimes you have to. And, know that even if you are having a bad day, know that you wake up, and sometimes you wake up and within the first 15 minutes, not going to be your day. And that's okay. That's okay, because you're allowed to have bad days. You're allowed to have days where things aren't always rainbow and sunshine. Sometimes I pretty much know from the minute I wake up that this is not going to be a productive day. Now, that doesn't mean that I lay in bed all day. I would love to. But that means that I do what I can do. And that's all you're supposed to do some days. Some days just getting up and getting that first cup of coffee and trying to get the cobwebs out of your head. Sometimes that's the best we can do. Some days I wake up with migraines and I know that most of that day is gone. Some days I wake up and, certain body parts don't really want to cooperate. And that's just part of my physical illness. Sometimes my mental, sometimes your mental illness takes over just a little bit. But you have to remind yourself and remember, you're not a diagnosis. I don't tell people and introduce myself, hi, I'm Shirley and I have da-da-da-da-da. Because that's not who I am. That's part of my physical makeup. That's part of my physical and mental makeup. But that's not who I am. I am Shirley, clinical hypnotherapist first. Or maybe I'm the Hypno Fairy Godmother first. Maybe, But, when people ask, people tend to like to ask, what do you do for a living? Or what do you do? Or, what do you like? What are your habits? And the first thing most people do is not list off every, physical ailment, mental ailment, whatever. I'm just not, Now, for some people, they'll go, how you doing? And I can go, wow, today is not a good day. And sometimes I do that, just to be honest. Sometimes I do that. But, we're so conditioned to just say, fine, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Everything's good. Yeah, most days people are not fine. They're usually one tip or the other. They're usually maybe a little more up. Some days you're a little more down. Some days you're way up. Some days you're way down. So we kind of find right smack in the middle. But yeah, just know that if you are having a bad day, you're allowed to have a bad day. You're allowed. Nothing says you can't have a bad day. Doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that today we're going to do the bare minimums that we need to do to keep ourselves going, to keep ourselves active, to keep ourselves moving in the right direction, that sort of thing. So that is who we are. And, you know, all of this leads to different parts of what I like to call Weeble Kung Fu. Because Weeble Kung Fu the Weeble is actually a little toy that has a round bottom and kind of wobbles to the left and the right and the front and the sides, but they never tip over. They never completely. They come really close sometimes to going to the side, and they really close. And I have taken some of my Weebles that I have because I have Weebles, and I have taken some of them, and I have a little Hypno Fairy Godmother Weeble. It's hysterical. But sometimes she goes way to the left or way to the right, but never falls down. And that's a part of Weeble Kung Fu. It's even though maybe things aren't the best some days, it's never over. And you always know that sometimes, you're gonna tip a little. But that's right, because you're gonna make it back up. Because there's love out there, there's support out there, there's what that is. And today, I was kind of thinking about it because today is, the second day of spring. Yesterday was the first day of spring. Today was the second day of spring. Well, it kind of works that way. And, changing of the seasons, and the sun is shining, trees are blossoming, spring, and the start of the winter months are generally, you get through the winter doldrums, and the start of spring generally brings on growth and rebirth and flowers coming out and thawing soil, and every media likes to just show you shining faces and blue skies on every social platform, claiming that spring cleaning is the key to mental health and the key to mental well-being, and everybody should have a sunny, rosy disposition. Yeah, it doesn't always work that way. The changing of the seasons is not that wonderful do-all, cure-all, and people still get, seasonal depression. Seasonal depression is a real thing, and it doesn't just go away because the calendar says it's now spring. Your mental anxiety and your depression are not going to go away just because the calendar says, congratulations, it's now spring, you should be happy. You should be just fine. In fact, the spring and early summer months sometimes see some of the highest rates of suicides and in people having increased depression and anxiety. The exact opposite. And why does this happen? Why would this happen? And, how do we kind of combat that a little bit? It's not that, it's not the magical, here we go. It's not that magical, spring is here, life is great. Summer's here. Some people still have snow. That means that although the calendar says it's spring, weather's been here lately. Places that don't always get snow have been getting snow. Places have been colder. Some places have been hotter. Where I live, we have days that are in the 60s. And I know for some of you, the 60s is hot and everything. For where I live, the 60s is actually, 50s and 60s is actually chilly. Don't be a hater. But, we have weather where one day it's 60s and the next day it's in the mid 80s. And then it goes back down. And, I know other people go from freezing to 40s, and it's all kind of relative. It's all kind of relative to where you live. But, this time of year doesn't mean that you're going to have consistently great weather. So you have to be aware of that. And seasonal depression doesn't just go away. And things like this don't just go away. And one of the reasons that people may feel a little more depressed and anxious in springtime is because of change. For some people, just having change does lead to an exciting opportunity to start over, but other people feel an intense instability in their lives. You know, so you start taking longer vacation, changes in weather, and changes in your daily routine. Some of us just had a time change. Some people didn't have a time change. Um, but it can bring on this overwhelming sense of anxiety because a lot of people don't take change well. I'm one of those people. I hate it when I have a routine and I'm comfortable in my routine, and then all of a sudden something just goes and kills my flow. And springtime can feel that way. Sometimes springtime is often associated with major events like graduations and weddings. And sometimes that's associated with big parties and social events and family interactions, which can also, trigger intense feelings of anxiety. Sometimes just the memories of these events can produce feelings of deep nostalgia and kind of a sense of melancholy, potentially triggering depressive events. So, although we like to pretend that spring is, or any new season is, a sense of beginning, which it can be, and some people thrive off of a new beginning. It's like New Year's resolutions, that whole new beginning. It's, for some people, it's like, oh, it's spring. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Everything is going to be different. I'm going to start new activities, and we have events coming up, and they just thrive off of that. And other people look at new events happening and new events coming, and it's a panic. It's literally a panic situation as to what they're going to do. And other factors are psychological. For some people, spring brings on allergies, like massive allergies, where our immune systems are working twice as hard, but we're feeling twice as crummy for days on end. And our bodies and our minds kind of feel helpless during this time of, heavy allergies. I have allergies. A lot of people have way worse allergies than I do. And the pollen starts going, and you kind of look at spring as a time of horror because you absolutely know what's about to happen, and you dread it. You absolutely can dread that because our bodies and our feel helpless, and they feel hopeless and helpless, and what am I going to do, and oh my god, it's coming. And so instead of looking at flowers and plants and stuff growing and the changing of the seasons, they look at it as hell's about to come. Some people out there know exactly who I'm talking about. And you may be one of those people. And although mine are bad, mine are so much not as bad as some people. But what I'm saying is that it can bring on that sense of depression. Your hormones, especially melatonin, might contribute to mood swings. The hormone plays a vital role in regulating our sleep cycles, and any change in the system produces sleep problems and grogginess, which is never beneficial to your mental health. This whole time change thing, all of a sudden, fall back. We lost an hour. Well, if you finally got yourself on a sleep schedule that works for you, and you finally have a routine that kind of works for you, which is important, and one of the things that we're about to go over, this whole idea of now all of that has changed again is going to throw you off. And despite changes that spring might bring, trying to find at least one consistent activity during your week to look forward to. Find some sort of routine. And it may take a little while for your body to get used to a sleep routine, but maybe add something into your routine that you know that you can do at a specific time. And it could be like Monday evenings, go for a walk with your dog. Fridays, have lunch with a friend. You know, a few extra hours on maybe a weekend day, like a Sunday, just dedicated to you, taking care of you. Just it, like I said, doesn't have to be daily. That would be great. But for some people, even weekly, find something that you can look forward to that's a consistent thing in your routine that will help you get a little more regulated, that will help your body kind of work itself into what it needs to do to start setting you up for that regular thing. And this can be such a benefit. That and seeing friends or taking your walks or whatever, you know, are always a good thing. But if you do it at a specific time, that means that you have now set up a specific routine, which is wonderful. And this time of year, well, any time of year, honestly, you need to focus on your sleep. And while for some people it's way easier said than done, try to prioritize your sleep. Set 2 alarms if you have to, you know, and one of those alarms could be for when you need to go to bed. So you're not just laying there and sometimes you go to bed at 10, sometimes 11, sometimes 1, there's no consistency. Set yourself up to maybe have one alarm to tell you when you need to go to bed. And that's go to bed without any electronics. Because if you're laying in bed with your electronics, your brain is still stimulated and it's not going to go to sleep. And yes, some of us are highly addicted to our electronics. I know this. I actually got busted last week for checking on something on my phone at like 1:30 in the morning, and I couldn't sleep. But I totally got busted, and it was like, okay, we agreed to no electronics after a certain time, and I'm like, yeah, I know. So you have to stick to your guns, So you have one alarm that tells you when you need to go to sleep, one alarm that tells you when you need to wake up, and try to keep that as consistent as possible. Now, it's not always an every day. You can't say, okay, 10 o'clock, just throwing out that number, 10 o'clock, we turn off the electronics, go into the bedroom, and start winding down. That doesn't mean you immediately have to shut out all the lights, turn everything off, close your eyes, but at least start slowing down. You have to give your brain a chance to kind of wind down a little bit, and that's when I love to do my breathing. That's when I love to do my focusing and kind of channel who I am and stuff like that. That's my time. And that can be your time, certain time, no more doing anything that's going to stimulate your brain. We want to bring it down. But yeah, try to set alarms maybe. You don't have to set like a full, you could set an alarm, funny enough, on your phone. If you've got a smartwatch, you can set it on there. Just something to give you a little vibration to let you know maybe you ought to do stuff. During spring, if you do have these sense of depressions and you do have these problems, ask for help. Reach out. Reach out to friends. Reach out to family. Your support system. I can be your support system if you don't have one. I have many people's support systems. And that's good. Seek out a therapist of some kind. Treatment, for seasonal depression, whether it's winter, spring, whatever, a change, can help you feel. It's a way to process your feelings. It's a way to tell yourself that it's all right. that it's actually okay. Um, and nothing bad can happen when, you're taking care of you, honestly. Springtime, I love spring. I really do. Um, it's not as cold, and yes, I know again, cold is relative, that it is sunnier longer, and you start feeling summer, and summer, I love summer because I love the heat, which is why I live in a more heat oriented place. Um, but if you have a mental health issue, spring can lift you up if you need to get going towards that. But you have to see how it affects you. You have to see what happens. And take care of yourself. You know, um, Go out and take those walks to get out, to get some fresh air. Stroll through. If you have a park or a little forest or a water area, something like that, it's really important, especially if you live in an urban area, to find nature a little bit. And that can totally help with your mental health. Once you're hearing the birds and you've got the wind, and nature offers a wonderful welcome release that can help if you do live in more of an urban setting and get you a chance to relax more in some sort of wildlife. And wildlife can also be relative for some people. Wildlife is, you know, squirrels and birds. For some people, it's deer and bear. Just be careful. Maybe since spring is here, if you like to garden, join maybe a gardening group. It's a great solution. It's a great way to de-stress. It reduces high blood pressure. People that undertake regular gardening will see reduction in mental health problems such as anxiety and relaxation because you're putting your energy into something that's alive and something that's growing. Um, our house out on the patio has hundreds of plants on it. And this time of year, the plants get little babies on them. And so we have more plants. But it's really relaxing. For my wife, it's not as relaxing for me because she's definitely the green thumb of the family. I like to look and go ooh and not touch because, I like having living things in our house. But, you know, she actually belongs to a couple of Facebook groups, and they talk about gardening and when to plant things. And, you get to see some of the things that maybe you've planted earlier in the year start to come to fruition. And it's great for your mental health. Maybe this is a good time to get a little more active because you can take those walks. There are a lot of intramural sports out there. We actually have a couple kickball leagues where I live, which I, you know, bring back that sense of childhood. Join a kickball league, something easy. It's, pretty much non contact, so that's always good. And, you know, maybe try a new sport that you've always wanted to try. Archery, or there's, lots of sports teams that, and if you're not good at athletics, maybe you have a friend that is, and going out and cheering for them and supporting them, you're actually supporting another person and making them feel better because they have the support. It's making you feel better because you're actually supporting someone else. You see where this is going? This is kind of going for your mental health. This is making you feel better. It's making your endorphins flow. It's calming you down. It's lowering your blood pressure. Maybe if you're artsy, take out a pad and take a walk and sketch out or draw out whatever you see. You don't have to be professional. You don't have to be great. And the fun thing is nobody has to see it. This is not an assignment where I go, take your pad and paper, go to a specific spot, draw what you see, yeah, post it. No, no. Now keep it for you. Now, if it's really good and you want to post it and you want to get other people's opinions, definitely. But some people's opinions, sometimes we don't need other people's opinions. Sometimes other people's opinions can cause a really big problem. Not every opinion is a good opinion. So if you do decide to post your work, just know. One of the things that I do is I love to write things down. I love to kind of write little short stories and little poems and stuff like that. And that helps my creative mind come out. That helps me develop new things, and I'm being creative because I'm creating new characters or I'm revisiting old characters. I have several characters that, maybe need revised or maybe they need a new adventure. When I get out, my mind starts going and I think of all the fun things that these characters can do. You may see, you're not even thinking about that character, or you're not even thinking about that drawing or that whatever, and you see something out of the corner of your eye. Maybe you see a person, maybe you see a leaf, maybe you see whatever, and it just floods in all this information, and you get all of these ideas, and it's amazing what it can do because it's lowering your blood pressure, it's slowing down your breathing, it's, all those things that I tell you to do for your mental health. Maybe try reconnecting with an old friend you haven't talked to in a while. People are meeting up again. You take precautions where you need to, but, maybe for some people, it's time to start reconnecting with our friends, getting out there, go have a cup of coffee, go have a smoothie, whatever. Oh, wow, that one kind of came up on me. You know, Maybe think of dreams and ambitions and things that you want to do. Making those lists, setting small goals, setting small goals. We have had many talks about setting goals, and it's always good if you have a gigantic dream to know that sometimes what you also need is some little tiny dreams, little tiny accessible things that you can do. Very important. You know, donate your time. You need to get out. You need to start seeing people. You need to feel productive. You don't know what else to do. People think about donating their time during the holidays. Well, businesses and charities and rescues and things like this, they need help year round. They don't just need help during the holidays. Now, they get a lot of help during the holidays, which is great, but people tend to not volunteer their time or resources as much during this time of year, after the holidays. So we're like 3 months past the holidays, and people have kind of, I hate to say this, but some people have kind of moved on. And, you know, the places that need help and need volunteers and need resources, and sometimes your resource can be you. They need these year round. They don't just, like I said, they don't just need them during the holidays. So you might think about that. Maybe get a little group together and, volunteer an afternoon. Anything from helping a homeless shelter, maybe cleaning up a park, maybe helping out a school, you know, get, start collecting things that for the homeless, do, do little things like this. Donating you is an amazing thing. I actually really love doing that. I do events minimum once a month with a small group that I belong to. Sometimes I do 2 and 3 a month. It just sort of depends. But while I'm there and when I get done, I have such a sense of pride, for lack of a better word. Yeah, pride and enjoyment and excitement knowing that I helped, knowing that I did something that can help other people. If you feel like you need to start working on you, maybe take up yoga, maybe take up Tai Chi. These are things that are lower in impact. So maybe if you can't do long walking and you can't do any specific sport, maybe take up, a type of, thing that is, and when you do yoga, when you do Tai Chi, and when you do things like that, they're generally non judgmental, which is good because that's what you need. A reduction in negative energy that's around you. I love doing Tai Chi. I do some yoga. I always do my stretching. And when I'm done, these are things that I like to do, especially during the end of the day when we were talking about routine at the end of the day. Doing some stretching is just sort of letting yourself out, letting yourself go. Oh, yeah, letting it breathe, you know, working on your stress management skills. Yes, those stress management skills. Pay attention to what triggers you. Write these things down. We've talked about this too. These are things that you can do when change comes upon you. Pay attention to the triggers. Don't ignore the triggers. Knowing which situations make you uncomfortable can kind of minimize the distress that happens because it's going to encourage more positive behaviors. Don't knowingly go into an event or knowingly go into something that you know is going to make you more in distress. If you have certain types of anxieties, or even back to, if you have certain allergies, don't decide that, now's a good time to walk through, a field of flowers if you haven't taken medication or whatever. Don't set yourself up for distress. Don't ever, ever set yourself up for that. Um, you know, there are people out there are groups out there, that are great resources. If you want to start doing yoga and Tai Chi, or if you want to go visit new places, you know, as much as Facebook gets a bad rap, and yes, Facebook deserves sometimes to get a bad rap, what happens is there are groups on there that can maybe lead you in the right direction, or Meetup. I'm a big fan of Meetup, where you can find groups, and some groups are still meeting online, which is good. Some are meeting out in public, which is awesome. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Getting out there, hmm, finding things that you can relate to is always a wonderful thing. And one of the best things that I can tell you, honestly, is that living in the here and now. Take a moment for mindfulness. Take a moment to notice the sun and the wind and how the air happens around your body as you're breathing. Sometimes we're so distracted with little tasks and responsibilities that we forget to associate life's little precious moments. And we need to learn how to bring our attention back to the moment using our little tricks of mindfulness and meditation and little mental exercises. Making a conscious effort to notice and understand your inner world, which is in you, and your outer world. And how at that moment you can improve your overall mental health. Living in the now. If you're starting to have a bad day, or you were having a really good day, and then you kind of notice that something twitched, the easiest way to get you out of that mode is starting to just bring yourself back to the moment. Ask yourself how that happened. Ask yourself why that happened. What brought on that feeling? My favorite thing to do is to ask yourself, how am I doing right now? Sometimes if you're starting to feel yourself slide a little bit, not a lot, if you slide a lot, then I always suggest contacting a counselor, contacting a support group, contacting a therapist, take care of those. But if you're starting to slide a little bit, ask yourself how you're doing. How am I doing right now? I probably ask myself this 5 or 6 times a day. If I feel my brain starting to go, or I get really stuck inside my head, I like to ask myself, how am I doing? And what brought on these feelings? What did I do something that brought on these feelings? Or did I hear something? Did I read something? What brought on this all of a sudden feeling of panic or anxiety? And I bring myself back to the here and now. Bring myself back to the moment. I do my 4-3-2-1s, the 4 things I can see, the 3 things that I can touch, the 2 things that I can hear. And I tell myself something I absolutely know. And I try to make it a positive thing that I absolutely know. I ask myself, how am I doing right now? How am I doing? And I start doing my wonderful breathing exercises of things that we go over. People always go, what do you do? Honey, I breathe. I breathe. And I breathe slowly. That's also a key thing. Don't breathe so fast, because then you're going to start hyperventilate, and you know how this works. But pay attention to your breathing. And if you're really good, if you're outside and you're doing it, not only pay attention to your breathing, but pay attention to the kind of wind outside. And take that wind that's going around you and bring it inside of you. And bring it as part of what makes you whole. Maybe use that wind to bring you a little more air, to bring you a little calmer. Feel it surround you. Feel it come inside and fill up your lungs. It's an amazing feeling. And as you know, we're not trying to ignore the bad feelings. We're trying to acknowledge them. Acknowledge what you're feeling, good or bad, but acknowledge it. And don't try to ignore it and go, I'm having a bad thought, I need to ignore it. No, you're having a bad thought. Okay, I've had a bad thought. I'm trying to figure out where it came from. If I can't figure it out, you know what? It was a moment. It was a simple moment in time. You don't need it. You've never needed it. When I first thought about talking about spring and new beginnings and stuff, I realized that a lot of what I'd been seeing was all about that happy, clappy, sunny, rainbowy, things like that. And I wish everybody could feel that way. I really do. I wish everybody could feel the way I feel sometimes. But you just can't. And I am the first to tell you that I am not sunny, happy, clappy all the time. But I like to, I acknowledge how I feel. And I have a wonderful support group, and everybody should have a wonderful support group. You have to have people with you, whether they're friends, families, peers, a therapist, a counselor, somebody that is on a line, a chat line or a text line that you can talk to. You have to have that support. So, you know, and don't let people tell you that just because the seasons changed, you have to change. You know you better than anyone else. You know what you can do, you know who you are, you have things inside your toolbox, little tips and tricks inside your toolbox that can help you out, that can make you, not make you, but can help you get through what you're going through. You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, the really highs, the really lows. It's all right. And spring, you can look at spring as a time of healing and a time of rebirth and a time of growing. And then in the back of your mind, you've got that, but all those changes, all those changes, all those changes. It's okay. It's okay. Sometimes change can be good. Sometimes change can cause on pure anxiety. Like I said, do what's best for you. Know that it's all right. Know that it's okay. That you have somebody out there that, I've given you ideas. You have ideas on your own. I'm not the end all do all. Come on. Think of an activity. Tell me, text me, email me, whatever. Tell me things that you like to do that'll help you relax. Things that you do when you're starting to feel a little antsy. Sometimes telling people and talking to people is one step closer. And, if we've never met before, that's okay. Sometimes telling an anonymous person that you just saw online how you're feeling, and at least you're getting it out. At least you're acknowledging it. At least you're doing it. And that is so important, to acknowledge and to do and to know, and, how just out there to the universe, breathing. And, sometimes I joke about, screaming into the universe. Sometimes I actually do scream into the universe. It's okay. It's cathartic. It's something that we do. It doesn't mean I do it all the time, but it's a coping mechanism. We all have coping mechanisms. We all have things that we do. We all have things that we know we can do. And you have that. You have that. You have tools. You have tricks. You have little things that I've never thought of. We've all learned from other people things that work. When I talk about Weeble Kung Fu, I actually have Weeble. I actually have several. I have my Hypno Fairy Godmother Weeble. And sometimes I will just whack her upside the head and see how far she goes, kind of back and forth. And you know what? When I'm starting to feel bad and I really want to make it so, I go, if she tips over, I'm going to tip. If she tips over, I'm going to tip. And I know that she's not going to tip over. And even though I know that, sometimes you have to just see how far you can push it. See how far you can push that thing. And it sounds weird that it's a toy. I'm lucky enough. I also have an animal. I have a great dog that I can talk to. She's wonderful for listening to me when I start to go off a little bit and start to get a little crazy. It's all right. Use what you have. Use who you know. You're going to be okay, And I put all these things out for you, to, like I said, some of us need to make it through the week. Some just make it through the day and the next hour. And we did. We did that, to help you become a little more mentally stronger, a little more mentally happier. Use your breathing exercises, focus internally, see how that's going, and keep asking yourself how you're doing. These are things that we can all do. And I want you to remember that, if you were doing something that's important, and you weren't in a safe place, that I repost all of these videos. They're all on my Facebook page. They're all on my YouTube page. Remember, just Hypno Fairy Godmother. They're pretty much everywhere. All my previous shows. So if you need to catch up on something, those are definitely there. You can download them. You can listen to them. Do whatever you need to do. So I want to thank you all for listening today and being here with me, and knowing that it's been a sincere pleasure to even be a small part of your day and a small part of your journey. And I hope that, maybe you learned something, maybe you got to calm a little, you got to breathe a little, maybe a little soothing, maybe I even made you laugh a little bit. And mostly, I hope that wherever you are, you're leaving a little more of who you want to be and what you want to be. I am Shirley, clinical hypnotherapist, activist, and mental health first responder at Whispering Zen Hypnotherapy and Wellness. And I work with my clients, and maybe you're one of my clients, or maybe you want to be one of my clients. And we work as a team to find out the best way to get you back to feeling more like you, feeling a little bit better. And there's no fear and there's no mental distress. It's just getting you back to being you. And I work online, which is great because I can be wherever you are. We kind of, this whole internet thing is kind of cool when it comes to that. And I know hypnosis isn't for everybody, and it kind of freaks some people out. So if you want to, maybe we can see if we can work together. You know, I am Shirley, your clinical hypnotherapist and hypno fairy godmother. And if you want to book an appointment or a consultation, you can do that at any time at whisperingzenhypnotherapy.com. Or, like I said, find me on all the social media sites. Just look for Hypno Fairy Godmother, and you will see me there. So, we're going to take one more last, nice, wonderful deep breath. We're going to hold it. And we're going to exhale with a smile. Oh my God, you guys, we did it. So thanks for tuning in today. Remember to tell all your friends about the show. Give us a little support if you can. And I promise I will see you next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.